Hey guys, so I finished watching the Patrick Troughton era, as you could tell. I put every episode, my thoughts on every single episode, on my YouTube channel for the past few months, every Thursday. So thank you guys for watching those. If you have, if not, then you could probably find them on my channel. But like I did after the first Doctor era ended, and the 10th and 9th and 13th and all the other Doctors I've reviewed every episode for. Now I'm going to be talking about my tier list. It's the tier list time. You know the title of the video. So, talking about every Patrick Troughton episode, going to rank them worst to best on this little tier list. We have A through F because, if Doctor Who isn't anything, it's inconsistent. So, let's get started then. He starts off with a bang with the power of the Daleks. I love this episode. It's a great way to introduce him to the show, I'd say. Right from the beginning, he is on fire. He's a little different than the Doctor we know later in the series because we're not really sure if we could trust him or not. This hero we've been watching for 3+ seasons turns into this other guy, and he's acting goofy. He's like, oh, he's is he the Doctor? Or is he not the Doctor? Like this is a pretty bold decision back in 1966, and I think they handled it well. I really like how Troughton's Doctor is not just a rehash of Hartnell. And you guys know I love William Hartnell, but having Troughton be very different, go in a different direction, kind of revives the show and it stops it from getting stale. So that's just like the main character thing. The rest of the episode is also really good. The Daleks are pretending to be servants for these guys on the planet Vulcan. No, not that Vulcan, the other Vulcan. So all sorts of fuckery occurs. Turns out the Daleks are not the servants. They're trying to conquer them and kill everybody. Man, who would have guessed? The Doctor did, but nobody believes him because he's a crazy hobo. Um, Well, yeah, I like how they have Polly kind of be like, well, maybe he is the Doctor, and Ben be like, no, this is fucking crazy. Like, he's not the Doctor. So I kind of like having two companions here to like voice their different views on the subject. So yeah, pretty great introduction if you haven't seen it. Moving on to the Highlanders, this is getting a D. Well, that didn't take long. I don't like the Highlanders. I think it's very lame. Barely anything happens in this. The only significant part is that Jamie is introduced, and I love Jamie, and he's likable, but the story itself is just so bland. It feels like it could have been told in one episode, but they stretch it out into full. It, there's really nothing memorable here. It also doesn't help the fact that it's completely missing. So an already static story, literally being a slideshow, is not enjoyable. Um, if it gets discovered, would I enjoy it better? Possibly. I don't. I don't think so though, because those other missing episodes, which I do enjoy a lot more. So I don't know. Maybe if it does get discovered, I'll enjoy it. Probably not though. Moving on to the Underwater Menace. So I saw this one with like it was the animated version. So this one's like half missing, I think. I don't know exactly how many, but I remember some parts were missing, some parts weren't. It had beautiful animation, don't get me wrong. On a shoestring budget, I think the BBC does a pretty good job with their animations. But the story just wasn't hitting it. It was just a bunch of nonsense. It's like, it's not as bad as the Red Planet, but it's like this era's version of the Red Planet. Well, it's just a bunch of stuff that happens. Really not memorable at all. The designs of the fish look ridiculous. They look better on the animation, but still, you know, for judging by its merits as a 60s television, not good. But it's okay, the other Atlantis stories are a little better anyway. Moving on to the moon base, which features the return of the Cybermen. Some would say that it's a little too soon since we just saw the Cybermen 4 stories ago, but I still enjoy this episode. Is it a rehash of the 10th planet? Yes, in some parts, but really like the set design. I really like the supporting cast. Jamie gets sidelined for most of it, but I guess it makes sense because you have three companions. It's kind of hard to do stuff with all of them at once. Troughton, I feel like, has finally come into his own as the Doctor. Very, commanding of the scene. I like the way to defeat them by turning off the gravity. The Cybermen just keep floating into space. That was a cool effect. Um, Half of it's missing, yes, but I think the animation did a pretty good job. It's really sad about how most of these episodes are missing, isn't it? I feel like more people would like the Patrick Troughton era and the William Hartnell era if it was complete. But I don't blame him. It's a hard sell. Moving on to the macro table. Macro table. This is a C minus. I think it's pretty good. In terms of like the premise, how it's kind of about propaganda. They're like taught to worship the crab people, but really the crab people are evil and they're kind of just mind controlling everybody with this um these like lullabies and songs and stuff to keep them pacified, but really they're eating them. But I feel like the episode itself is a bit slow. I love the premise, but I think the pacing could have been worked on because it kind of runs in circles a little bit. Oh, this person's possessed. Oh, they forgot about, oh, this person's possessed. Like, I don't know. The crab people design, we don't know what it's like because all of the episodes are missing. But I will say I do love the animation for this one. Very like, especially in the color version, very vibrant. Okay, moving on. We have the faceless ones, which is a finals adventure for Ben and Polly. Now, if we're being honest, they don't really do much in here. They disappear for half of the story. So if they were gonna make a final episode of them, I feel like it would have been cool to have them at the forefront. However, I still enjoyed it. Jamie gets a lot to do because Polly and Ben are kind of kidnapped for half of it. I like the one lady who, Pauline Jones, I think is her name, who's like the temporary companion while they're captured. She's cool. It would have been nice to see her join the show, but I think I saw the documentary and the actress was asked, but she just didn't really want to. It's fair enough, I guess. I like the airport story. I don't know. I just love airports, so maybe that's just a me thing. I just think they're cool. So them being chased around an airport trying to find the aliens who are like making clones of people, possessing people. I think that's cool. I think it's neat. So, pretty good story. Moving on to the evil of the Daleks, which is I'm gonna give it a C plus. This is the season 4 finale, and it does definitely feel like a finale. A lot of crazy stuff happens. I like how it, starts off in present day London, then it goes to the 1800s, then it goes to Scarrow. It Not often do stories really jump around like this, but I appreciate it. I think the story is very well paced, very tense. The Daleks are extremely threatening. The Emperor Dalek at the end. The last, part seven is where things get crazy. I like parts 1 through 5, but like it gets more and more intense as it goes on, and I like that. The mad scientist is fucking crazy. I love mad scientist characters. I always think they're entertaining. Victoria's dad is nice. Too bad he's dead. So is that one character who can't speak, the mute guy. He was cool, but then he died. Fell into a volcano. But you win some, you lose some, right? So it ends with the Doctor defeating the Daleks forever. By forever, he means like 5 seasons, which is honestly pretty long time. I kind of like how they took a break because the Daleks were starting to become a little stale. I'm glad they've been doing that now. We haven't really had a real Dalek story in 3 years, and we haven't had a good Dalek story in 9 years. So, you know, moving on. So, season 5 starts out with a bang with the Tomb of the Cybermen. This is Victoria's first adventure on the TARDIS, and I like how she's like, excited to be there, but also very sad because her dad died. A lot of times in Classic Who, when when stuff like this happens, like when people die, the cast just kind of has to move on and go to the next story. Well, this one actually delves in on it, which I appreciate more. They don't just act like it didn't happen. Like, in the fifth Doctor's era, or the late fourth Doctor's era, after Tegan's aunt dies, he only mentions her like twice. When Adric dies, they're like, "Yo, sad. Okay, let's move on." But with this, I like how they mentioned him. Um, Also, the Cybermen themselves. I love the Cybermen. They especially in this story, they're extremely threatening. Despite being 55 years old, them coming out of the tombs is horrifying. It's like something out of a Hammer horror movie. Um, it's just such a great set, such an intimidating monster. And the Doctor kind of has to like save the day even when the expedition team is a bunch of morons or evil morons. You never really know. um, but yeah, I love the scene where like he's like getting out and then they pull him back and he's like, no, no. It's just really funny. So you got a lot going for it in this story, and Charlton does a great performance. He could do those, you know, oh my giddy aunt scenes. He could do like smart thinking doctor scenes, and then he could do like a very sweet scene like the one he had with Victoria. So this one definitely helps by being 4 parts. I feel like if they stretched it to 6 parts, would have the pacing would have slowed down. That's kind of the problem with a lot of these episodes down here in the sea tiers. Okay, moving on, we have the Abominable Snowman. Uh, so this one is notable. Jeez, why can't I talk today? This one's notable for introducing the Great Intelligence and the Yeti and Professor Travels. So it's a pretty integral story in terms of that. Um, but it does drag a lot. It drags a lot. It could have been a 4 episode one, but they made it a 6 episode one, which yeah, really brings the story down for me. However, I do like the setting of being in the Himalayas, isn't it? Yeah, the Himalayas, um, and just that guy, like the not Nomachako Tutu guy. I don't know how to say his name. The guy is like a monk being possessed by the great intelligence, in that smooth, calming voice he speaks with. Like, it's creepy as fuck. I love how they could do so much with such a little budget. That guy with the creepy, calm voice, Namutukatutu, sounds he's creepier than the robot Yetis. Let's be real. They're not that threatening. They look like they're gonna hug me to death. So yeah, pretty good story. I like how the Doctor stops them, but it is too long. Moving on to the Ice Royals, very similar problems to the Abominable Snowmen. Um, it was 6 parts, could have easily been 4 parts. I do love the Doctor, I do love Jamie, I'm going to say that in every video, but it does move at a very glacial pace, pun intended, because they're the Ice Royals. I do like the conflict, though, with the computer, how the computer can't, like, it can't make a risk because it can't risk destroying itself. But when you have two difficult decisions, you can't always rely on technology to make that choice. And I think that's a very important lesson. And I like that how the Doctor has to convince him, like, you don't always have to listen to the computer. You got to think for yourself. You got to have free will. And I really love that message. But it is funny when he says, like, I hate computers. It's like, Doctor, how many computers are inside of your TARDIS? Like, let's be real, man. But still, pretty good episode, let down by its very slow pacing. And I'm not a huge fan of the Ice Royals. They have ridiculous voices, and they look ridiculous, and they're not really that threatening. Moving on to the Enemy of the World. So this was a very bold decision. You have Patrick Troughton playing 2 characters. One of them is one of them's the Doctor. The other one is evil and has a very bad Mexican accent. Sounds like Scarface, And he's like a dictator. He's basically like the new Hitler, you know. And this one doesn't really feel like a Doctor Who episode, at least the Troughton era, because There's no bug-eyed monsters, no slow-moving monsters. It's very much more of like a James Bond movie. So because the Doctor looks just like a salamander, they have him pretend to be him. But this leads to all sorts of conflicts. Um, this one is 6 parts, but I think they handle the pace pretty well because you're always like hoping to see what happens next. Very action-packed. This is the expensive episode of the season. You have helicopters, you have lavish sets, you have filming on location. That crazy climax of the episode where like Salamando pretends to be the doctor, and then the real doctor shows up and fucking pushes him into the time vortex. Like, that's crazy. I'd like to see him come back someday. Unfortunately, not though, because John has died like 40 years ago. But still, what a crazy ending to that crazy story. Moving on to the Web of Fear, which is getting a B. Sorry, a B. I really like the Web of Fear. Much better than the Abominable Snowman. So this one takes place in 1960s London. It's like it's the first appearance of the Brigadier. It's not the first unit appearance, but it definitely feels like a unit episode. The Brigadier is, of course, a corporal, but I like how he starts off as very skeptical of the Doctor, but he soon learns to come around to him, and it doesn't take that long. He, while skeptical, is open to hearing different ideas and viewpoints, which makes the Brigadier such a great character. The story itself is paced wonderfully. All 6 episodes move at a pretty good pace, and I don't know. I love it. I love how creepy the Great Intelligence is. I love filming in the. Well, they actually didn't film in the London Underground. The sets for the London Underground were so realistic that the actual London Underground were like, "Do you film without us? Like, did you film without asking us?" That's how good the sets were. The Great Intelligence is so creepy here, and having the Doctor try to trick him by putting the hat on his head and like saying like, "Oh, this is gonna kill me," but it turns out it wasn't. And Jamie and Zoe stop it. No, Jamie and Victoria stop it, and they're like, "Ah, Jamie, what the fuck? I was almost close to killing them. I was bluffing." But I guess that leaves the door for them to return in the Snowman. So I'm not complaining. But yeah, Web of Fear is a great story. Moving on to Fury from the Deep. So this is the one with the algae people. So yeah, the algae people. They're like kind of making weird little like clones of people, except they're made of algae, and they have this weird thing where they open the mouth like this. That's creepy. I wish the story existed though, because it's animated, and the animation is okay. Looks a little too cartoony, not as good as like maybe this one or this one, but you know, it's better than a Web of Feel. I don't like the animation in a Web of Feel. I hate CGI, but Fear from the Deep, it looks okay. The story is good, a bit long though. Could have been 4 parts instead of 6 parts, but it was still enjoyable, I would say. I really like the focus it gets on Victoria as a character because is Victoria one of my favorite companions? No, not really. She's a bit too screamy. But then again, wouldn't you be freaked out too if you're just trying to constantly being killed by aliens? I'd be freaked out, you know? So who could blame her? And I like how like she realizes this isn't good for her keep on traveling with them if she's just gonna get scared all the time. Um, it's a nice portrait of somebody acknowledging that they have anxiety, I would say. So I like how the doctor's like, if you stay here, I would not judge you. I think that's a really beautiful ending for her. Not one of my favorite characters, but at least they took the time to write a satisfying ending to her. Looking at you, Dodo. Looking at you, Liz Shaw. Oh, who else? Vicky had a bad ending. Leela had an awful ending. And like at least Fury from the Deep is a very good ending for Victoria, even if the story does drag a bit. But I do like how creepy it is in some parts. Moving on to The Wheel in Space. This episode fucking sucks. I'm sorry, guys, it sucks. The only redeeming quality is that it introduces Zoe, and I love Zoe. She's one of my favorite companions. I've met her at a con twice. She's cool. So is Jamie. Um, but the story itself just does not work. Like, the whole time they're just sitting there on the ship. And I'd be fine with that. Like, I like a good bottle episode once in a while, but things actually have to happen. Like, tensions have to be raised, characters need to get developed. None of that happens. It's just a whole bunch of nothing for 6 episodes. Very lame. The Cybermen, not really threatening here. But I feel like this might be because they've been overused a little bit. This is the fourth time they show up in 2 seasons. And you're like, okay, maybe you guys could take a rest after, for a little bit. If they took a break after the Tomb of Cybermen and they didn't show back until the invasion, I think that would have been a lot better. But that didn't happen, so there's really not much to say about the Wheel in Space, which is probably why it's a D+. The only thing it's that high is that I think Zoe is good, and I like Jamie's chemistry with her. Moving on to Season 6, we have The Dominators. Yep, right after the awful Wheel of Space, we have the Evening Rules Dominators. You know what I noticed? Every single episode in his era starts with the. Oh, except for Fury from the Deep. That's the only one. Kind of bugs me. They could have just called it The Fury from the Deep. I think I'm getting off topic. That's how boring the Dominators is. It's so stupid. The Quarks have an awful design. I don't care about the conflict between the hippies and the aggressive Dominators. Like, I get the point of, like, you have to stand up to defend yourself. But also, like, I don't give a shit. So let's move on. Okay, after those 2 duds, we have The Mind Drawable, which is a very good story. That's getting a C+. It's the most creative story in Charlton's era, and I think a lot of these stories are creative, but this one takes it to a whole new level. Um, they're trapped in the land of fiction where pretty much anything could happen, and that raises the stakes, because the whole time you're watching, it's like, okay, what type of crazy shit is going to happen next? I love when stuff like that happens. The first episode is so creepy. This is a bottle episode that had a budget of $2, was filmed in the TARDIS in this white void, and it's creepy. It is so creepy. I love it. Um, then, like, later in the episode, Jamie's actor Fraser Hines gets sick, and they have to replace him with his cousin or something. And this is the only episode of that would, like, remotely make sense, because nothing makes sense in this episode, but in a good way. So I love the Mind Wobble, and I like that final confrontation between the Doctor and the Master. No, not the Master. The Master of the Land of Fiction. This is before we met the actual Master. But yeah, pretty good episode. If we're being real, I love it. So like the C pluses, I really enjoy the C pluses. The only reason I'm not higher is because like A and B have to be, like it's like just tier number 3. It's still really good. Moving on to the Crotons. Okay, back to another dud. His era is so inconsistent because you had the highs and you had the lows. So the Crotons, extremely forgettable story. I feel like if I had to, like, if I couldn't fall asleep instead of making a melatonin, I just watched the Crotons. I think there's a lot of nice moments between like Zoe and the Doctor in particular. They have really good banter and chemistry. It's nice having a companion who's like also very smart, of a genius like the Doctor is. And I like Zoe's role in here. I don't know why they felt like Zoe was a good choice to have a small companion, but Liz wasn't. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's like the personalities and the chemistry with the Doctor. But yeah, the Crotons suck. Besides the nice Jamie and Zoe moments, and you have a couple good chat moments as well. Moving on, we have the Seeds of Death, which is like the Ice Royals. It's okay. It's passable, but it also is a bit too long. It should have been a full portal. But yeah, I'm pretty apathetic on the Ice Royals. They're better than like the Pating or Beep the Meep. But they're still kind of boring, so that's why I'm putting it here. It's not the worst episode ever. That goes to these guys. Oh, that actually goes to our next episode. The Space Pirates. Fuck the Space Pirates. Troughton had some pretty lame episodes, but at least with these, you have him and his companions to like liven it up. At least you're here with some familiar faces. With the Space Pirates, they're like unconscious for most of it. They're barely interacting with the other characters. I know this is because they were filming the role games at the same time as they were filming this, but if you have a Dr. Light episode, at least replace them with characters I actually like, not just a bunch of awful American accents. Like Doctor Who has never been known for the good American accents. This is like gunfighters level bad with the American accents, and all the characters just piss me off so much. I hate the guys like, oh, I'm a scoundrel. God, the story's so boring. It doesn't help that like more than half of it is missing. But yeah, there's a couple ways to improve the story. One, make it a full portal. Two, have things actually fucking happen. Three, have the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe involved more. But yeah, I think a better solution would just be get rid of the story altogether. I think uh, Jamie and Zoe's actors were saying at that con that they were getting very overwhelmed filming 44 episodes a year. So, okay, then just get rid of these and these and these, and you could just put this at the beginning of I don't know, something else. Like you could have just got rid of all of these episodes and nothing would have changed. But whatever. Moving on. After the roast episode of Charlton's Era, we have the best episode of Charlton's Era, the Roll Games, and nothing comes close to this. It's a 10-part epic, never feels dull, despite being the longest episode of his era. The Doctor, Jamie, Zoe are on file. The mystery where you don't really know what's going on until like the later episodes is so compelling. And of course, that final plot twist well, they meet the Time Lords and they have to say goodbye. Jamie and Zoe get the memory wiped, and the Doctor gets stuck on Earth and forced to regenerate. Very tragic. I have more thoughts on the War Games in my video, but I could talk about how much I love this episode all day. It's such a good one. It's a classic. I haven't seen the colorized version because I think it's awful that they've cut down this 4.5 hour masterpiece and shrunk it to 90 minutes. I don't know whose idea that was, but that was a mistake. The Roll Games is one of the greatest episodes. Well, it's the greatest episode, not just in Patrick Troughton's era, but one of the greatest episodes in the entire 60-year history of the series, and I love it. So yeah, ends off Troughton's era on a high note. Literally could not get any higher. So yes, Troughton's era, you had a few duds, but you also had a few high points. So kind of represents Doctor Who as a whole. Pretty inconsistent, but when they're good, they're on fire. Patrick Troughton was such a great Doctor. Jamie, great companion, stuck by him. And Zoe was great too. Polly, Ben, and Victoria were okay. I didn't love them, but I didn't really hate them. So yeah, just he was an outstanding Doctor, and if he wasn't good, the show would be done. You know what I mean? He had a lot of pressure on him to succeed William Hartnell, and I think he he succeeded. I think he did fantastic. I'll always love him. I think he's a great Doctor. Might be my fourth favorite Doctor of all time. I'm gonna go 12, 3, 11, 2. So yeah, I really have a soft spot for him. I'm not going to be counting the his reappearances in the Five Doctors, so the Three Doctors, Five Doctors, and Two Doctors, because the most are like the other Doctors episodes. He just kind of makes an appearance in them, so I'll leave that for whenever I get around to those. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below. What is your favorite episode? What is your least favorite episode? Knowing how everybody in Doctor Who has a different opinion, like Doctor Who fans can't agree on anything. So maybe your favorite episode is of the Space Pirates. Please tell me why. Please tell me why. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm going to be starting the John Poultry era next week. Very excited about that. So subscribe below if you're into that. And until next time, peace.